Conrad, I'm not hearing that room at all.
The mic's off.
Now we're streaming. I call this
Yeah.
meeting to order. We have a quorum with physical and electronic people. So are there any adjustments to the agenda? Anybody? No. There are no citizens apart from Cindy.
Mm.
Do you care to make any comments?
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We did get a set of minutes from Rebecca a couple hours ago. Do you all feel that you want to look those over? Would you like to just enter those into the record?
You first. I'll second this motion.
Okay. Yeah, here they are. It looked clean to me.
Sorry.
Six or five, six. Little fun to do that.
Right, there's a summary of your presentation, Cindy, and you have also kind of
There's a complaint.
condensed, yeah, the discussion.
Looks good.
Okay, this looks good to me. I make a motion to enter these into the record.
Second.
Okay,
So, I mean, yes, here, there.
third,
I, or whatever. Just to say.
Ruben says aye.
all four?
I,
Okay,
Yep.
anyone against?
No,
Who's against?
not again.
All right,
All four.
let the minutes be entered into the record. Chair report, I actually had one thing I wanted to say. I know a lot of people were talking about Tucker Chevrolet moving out of Waldoboro whenever they finish building their new dealership in Wiscasset. And there are a lot of factors that went into that decision. I'm sure we can't talk about all this publicly, but since it generated a fair amount of discussion online and I assume in person, I thought it would be worth just mentioning at this juncture that I would like to see at some point a concerted effort to create a vision for the Route 1 corridor in the Madomic Valley. And that's something that would involve planning board, citizen input, the whole 9 yards. I would love to see a 2040 vision for that stretch of Route 1 in
Really,
the Madomic
both of
Valley.
them. It's really two, it's really. Sorry. go ahead.
Well, I just that specifically is worth thinking about as people are moving in and people are moving out. And typically these kinds of roads that are not exactly highways and they're not exactly streets, people are trying to get through, they end up with gas stations on the side of the road and this and that. It's not a pleasant place to walk, for instance. The times that I've had to walk to Chevrolet, Tucker, when I was having work in my car, I found that street actively hostile to my presence.
Yeah.
And I find that a shame because it really is the main business district.
You mean the federal highway? That's
Exactly.
absolutely, it's supposed to be actually hostile to walking. That is, in fact, over the years when we had to fight to get lights over at Moody's because the trucks that are coming through to supply the state, the big guys, they have a hard time, slowing down, stopping, and then getting going again. And but it's going to be interesting. Let's
So
say
you
that.
you put your finger on exactly the problem is that it's trying to do double duty. It's trying to serve as a major highway and it's also trying to serve as one of the main business
Well,
streets.
that's a lot of that is our fault. That's a historical thing. When and I don't want to use a whole lot of time, but when that Route 1 section coming through Waldoboro there, that's the bypass to the
Right.
old Route 1 that was going through the village.
Yeah.
And so part of Route 1, that was the bypass that came in, the state was able to buy the development rights, the easements. And the goal was it was going to be a bypass for the traffic that had to get through and get moving quickly to supply the rest of the state up the coast.
Right.
And the part that was going through all the small towns, which slowed everything down, that was going to be the business Route 1. And apparently they were unable to purchase enough of the easement development rights to actually control development along the bypass Route 1, which is
Mhm.
what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So,
You mean Main Street and 1A?
yeah, we're
no,
talking
it-
about,
Main Street, 1A.
we're talking
Main
about,
Street.
yeah, the
Yes,
section one,
it's-
yeah, exactly.
it's technically not even 1A anymore, but yeah, it's the part that goes down from the hill through the village, across the river. That was the old Route 1 in history. So what ended up happening is that just like down on Route 1 in southern Maine, businesses, of course, they are attracted to area that has transit travel. And so because the property was not protected from development, it was able to be purchased and built and have access. It's not something that originally they wanted to. It's not.
So
not
it sort of
what-
undermined the original purpose of the bypass.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And they really want to keep it from getting like southern Maine where you can't move it. You can't move in the summer at all. You're
Yeah.
in and out. There's no way. And this is our only main supply route up the coast of Maine. There's no other road that comes along the coast to supply all the towns and the businesses. And if you look at the highways, you've got 295 that kind of ends in Augusta. Originally, too, they were hoping that 295 was not actually going to stop in Augusta, but was going to parallel Route 1.
Oh,
But that
easy.
didn't end up happening for a variety of reasons. And then 95 goes up the center of Maine. So you have to look at what the purposes were for the large roads and how they need to be used. And the state's desire to have transit and supply route work is just in conflict with towns' desires to have slow areas. And so Route 90 was built as another effort to bypass the little villages through Thomastown,
yeah.
Rockland, etc. And Route 90, they were able to protect some of the property, but not everything.
There's certainly fewer driveways, fewer offshoots of 90. than
Right, fewer, all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
you have to really think carefully on, the larger picture.
Yeah. Well, I just want to call out that it's worth, I would love to have more robust discussion about it because it is a big part of our town. We spend a lot of time there. The town office is there. You can walk from the town office down to the village and it's not pleasant. It's not a nice place to walk, and I would love to talk about that more in the future. Alec.
Well, were some of those easements on Main Street or what was to be
The
No,
old Route 1?
were they perfected or not?
no, you didn't want easements on there. You wanted easements on this Route 1. You don't want easements on the old Route 1, Main Street, because that's supposed to be where the businesses were. And of course, it's residential mostly until you get in the village. But originally, like in Damascotta, they were kind of hoping that it would be a business Route 1.
Yeah.
Way back.
It's totally not developed, not that way at all. The
No,
old,
not at
the
all.
old Route 1 is completely empty, except for residential.
Right.
Um,
So, and what were you just saying? Oh yeah. So I was at the medical building, Main House Medical Building event yesterday.
groundbreaking.
And people were speaking about, and lots of people have thoughts about all of what that might mean, but they were speaking about the possibility in the future of requesting some way to have crosswalks from Depot Street across to Jefferson Street there. And also to have an easier way to get access onto Route 1. You know, it is hard to take a left onto Route 1 from there, for sure.
Yeah.
But when there's more traffic going in and out of that road, I think that it will open up some opportunity to make a request at least.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I'd love to revisit that in these meetings in the future. The new main health building on Depot Street,
What was that,
groundbreaking,
when was that?
yesterday.
Yeah,
In fact, that
so based,
segue.
based on what you were talking about in terms of the road that goes off to the right into Waldeboro, I was thinking that would be a perfect place to put one of the type of gateway signs that's on Lockport.
Yeah, well, let's get to that in a
If
minute.
anywhere that type of sign would go,
It would make sense there.
and it would actually look pretty good, and it would be more directive of traffic like we were talking up here.
Well, let's get to that in a minute. So actually, this might link well to your town updates. The main health.
Yes, so Main Health groundbreaking was yesterday. Pretty nice. For those who are interested, there's little pamphlets that are out on the where the town clerks usually are. You can just see an idea of what the floor plan and future plans are going to be like. It's pretty exciting.
What was that turnout?
The turnout. Oh, I'd say 50 plus people is what Julie told me I had enough seats for. Plenty of food left over too. Next week, we're going to have Topsail Farm coming to the planning board for a pre-application. Topsail Farm got their USDA grant and just needs to get some site plan permitting out of the way. At the meeting, we're also going to talk about some land use ordinance amendments that were not able to be addressed last year because of some deadlines that we faced. Community action grant. First of all, sorry that it's still a bit cold in the room. We're still getting the HVAC upgrade and everything, but hopefully by next month we'll be all set and done. Some of the people in the back have their system already working and it is very toasty in those rooms. So it's a very good system so far. And we were able to put in a submission for converting all the lights to LEDs and insulating parts of the fire and emergency bays so that should finish off our energy audit and make us a pretty efficiently done community public building. We also will actually have to renew our community action resolution by June. So that might be a discussion to have at a future EDC meeting, maybe even a workshop with some residents just to go over what's been done in the last 2 years and then try and get an outline for projects going forward. We didn't really have a thorough workshop like that in the past, but that was because it was kind of a rush to try and get ready for a grant round. Today, we officially were approved for our for 2 housing grants, the study on the available units in town and wetland delineation and other permitting related items for a booster station in the downtown so that we can have the pressure actually in good condition for places like the 80 Gray housing project and everything that's going uphill in the village.
Where would
Which
that be put?
it'll be put at the remaining parcel of the 80 Gray lot that the town still owns where the one-room schoolhouse used to be. We put it there. We're able to get the high pressure that's over at Jefferson Street, go up through School Street, and we're good. I think the lowest pressure we get in that area when you go from School Street up is about 42 PSI. And if we got this booster station done, we're up to maybe 112. And that's a fantastic change that we can get.
How big an area will that impact? Asking for a friend.
Anyone who goes uphill from the sprawl block will see an increase in their water pressure. So if there is a fire at Coles Hill, then right now you likely would lose that water until the emergency is done. But if we get this booster station installed, then even if a fire happened in 2 or 3 spots in the downtown, hopefully that does not happen, you'd still have your access to water with no issues. That's the goal. And right now, Lincoln County is actually putting in another housing grant for looking at feasibility for utility expansions throughout Lincoln County. So we are going to try and put something in. I just contacting some private property owners to see if they are interested. And the focus is for housing. I should stress that item. And actually, speaking of water, bless you, a
Thank
very thing I'm excited for. I've been waiting on this for a few years. Northern Borders, which was originally only a federal grant that was available for Knox and Waldo County in our area, is now available for Lincoln County. So this is an up to $1 million grant that could pay up to 50% of an infrastructure project we have. This is a very exciting thing that I've been waiting on for since 2021, and now it's actually happening.
Have our neighbor counties taken advantage of it? Do
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
Rockland will put in a request almost every year. And I'm sorry,
I apologize.
no, I that was all I was really going to say. Knox and Waldo, they take it up, especially the cities. So it's very good that we actually are included in this session. Did you have a question about it, or?
Yeah, what's the funding targeted for? What are we gonna target for? How much?
It's mostly economic development, and we apply for up to $1 million, and it can only do half of the project cost. So the booster station, for example,
Okay.
that would be an $800,000 estimated project. So we could only apply for $400,000. Meanwhile, if we have a $2 million project, we could apply for $1 million, but obviously we have to come up with the match. I should have it so that we could use some TIF funding, and if the earmarked funding is available, we don't have to use TIF funding. But that's a story for another day.
Are we competing with the other counties?
Yes and no. I mean, there's limited funding for our area, but when I'm saying our area, I'm talking about the state of Maine, pretty much.
Is it any infrastructure? So it could be sewer, it could be
Could
water.
be sewer, could be water, anything that's creating jobs. Some of it's technical assistance. Some of it is non-infrastructure related projects. They really just want to know, we just have to specify if it's a shovel ready project like the booster station would be. And if it's not, how's it going to lead to that? So
Right.
next year, what might be an option would be what you're talking about a plan for the Route 1 village area.
Yeah.
Because that would be a technical assistance one that is aimed towards planning development for future development, I think said twice, but
Right. Which could involve any number of things, sewer, water, sidewalks.
sewer, water, sidewalks, we just need to
Lights,
make
everything.
sure we tie it to economic growth in some way, shape, or form, yeah.
Would you submit in our grant or two grants or 3 grants at different price levels, cost levels?
So we're,
Fit into whatever they end up putting their puzzle together.
So they-
funds?
so we could always put in multiple grants for NBRC, but it's very unlikely they'll do more than one because they're trying to spread it out as far as they can.
Well, what I meant is that if we have a project that's gonna be, 800,000, we get 400,000, but they only are able to allocate 600,000 or 300,000 per project.
Right.
We would want to have our project or another project that's scalable, that size, to fit their remaining funds, is what all I'm saying. How does that work?
So usually, I think I understand what you mean, but the problem is if, like the booster station, for example, that's one project A, and it's a focus on improving the water system. If we're having another project being suggested, like say sidewalks or making the Route 1 area a safe area, you have to have a good way of tying those two together, or else they're just going to say, make 2 different applications and we'll see if we'll fund both of them
Or one of them?
or one of them.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, so we can always apply for multiple ones, but they're just not, they're gonna ask you straight up, which one is your top pick? Which one
yeah, no,
has to
that's
You
be?
gotta prioritize it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, I would be saying have a fallback.
Yeah, no, I have quite a few projects. Some of them are planning, some of them are infrastructure related. The booster station is just one that's probably ready to go and just needs to get the funding.
That's the most likely candidate for this grant.
I put I'd assume it's very good for infrastructure related project. And if the booster station's done, the extension that happens to Route 1 to get to Moody's and Borealis spreads, that would be the next phase. And then having it come down Route 1 so that all that area can now be developable with sewer and water connection. It's a 3-phase plan that does require a lot of money, but it opens up a lot of possibilities.
Okay. NDRC, what does that stand for again?
NBRC, Northern Borders Regional Commission.
Great.
So very happy that that's happening. And we'll have some students from UMO coming to the select board next week, just to talk about potential trail work that they're going to do over at the main health site. It's just part of their senior capstone. I've told them, maybe something that can account for if it floods or the wetlands that are there. They're just doing a little workshop at the very beginning, so people are welcome to attend. And I completely forgot about another presentation that's actually having to happen on the select board, but Ruben probably would have caught me and said, Max, you forgot to bring this one up.
I believe in you, Max.
Thank you, Ruben, because I don't believe in myself. We will have Simon Thorne from Consolidated Communications at the select board meeting. He might be the first one to present. He is going to be talking about the timeline and the broadband fiber project.
Great.
So if people want to hear about when they might be connected to fiber, you know where to be, or at least online where to be.
Bring your popcorn.
Oh, I really hope it's not a popcorn worthy event. I'm hoping he'll just do his 10-minute presentation, say, yep, you'll get fiber by then, and he can move on. I don't want to be there all night.
I'm expecting drama.
How? What is there something I'm missing from all
No.
this?
So that's everything for the town stuff?
Yep, that's all I got.
Okay.
I have one question for town stuff. Is there any information that you have that funding or agencies are gonna be more difficult to deal with? I mean, we get our monies from the state.
Yep.
The states get them from the feds.
Yep.
And is there any, what's expected to happen come January 20?
If it's pretty hard to,
Time.
yeah, I know it's
And
hard.
your time.
It's hard to give an exact thing, but
5 million.
well, for example, the state got $69 million of NOAA funding. That's federal funding to do a lot of the resiliency projects, some of which I just mentioned a moment ago. There was concern, hey, is that still going to be honored? And they said, yep, you have your contract for 5 years, so we're going to honor that. NBRC, same thing. They have it approved, and it's going to be for 5 years. We are part of that area. So, I mean, the project itself, I don't know if we'll get NBRC funding, and the organizations that get funding, I honestly can't assume on every single one, but I always say maybe the first year should be fine because it's still working on contracts. Funny enough, I actually have an EDA grant that will expire, or I'll have federal funding that will expire in June for my job. So it'll be interesting to see if I'll have federal funding July 1st.
Yeah, well, I think it's gonna be a significant problem.
Well,
I think the food pantries really gotta get in front of this too, up and down the coast.
Well-
And not only is it gonna be, not only is the social, I mean, having done a bunch of research on this, not only is the social safety net gonna be slashed, but the agencies are gonna get frozen up because no director of an agency is gonna issue $1 that Trump might get upset about. So there's gonna be a lockup of funds at the federal level to the state. So it's good that there's stuff already approved and ready to be used. So my guess is that if anybody's got a project on, giddy up.
well, that's why I say the earmark funding, for example, I'm hoping I get 1 more year of that out of that thing. Like I have to wait until I hear the federal budget is approved because we still have an ambulance request under that one.
Would that affect, is the money for the park already set aside?
The what?
Money for the, I call it the Waldeboro River Park.
Oh.
Sylvania site?
Yeah. There's no federal funding tied to that one yet or anything. Although we would be applying for land water conservation funding. in June, so that's federal.
But it's not like a federal earmark.
Yeah, it's not.
No, it's not a federal earmark. Federal earmark is very different. I'm hoping to hear March 15th that our ambulance request was approved and there's going to be one more year at least so that I can then have some hope.
Great. Shall we move on to signs? Yes. Let's talk about signs.
Everywhere a sign.
Sign, everywhere a sign.
Think should be able to see this. Jen, Ruben, can you see the sign?
It's kind of small.
It's gonna be.
Yeah, I can't really help that one, but
Okay,
That first page is tiny
yeah.
because the image is low res. It gets,
Scaling thing on there.
it gets bigger.
That's all right. I just made it fills my whole screen now. So, I mean, not the sign, but I got it.
just tell me when to go to that.
This first slide is showing signs that we all seem to gravitate towards and a little bit of text. Why I included it, why we liked it. So just to remind everyone, text breaking the bounds, how Waldoboro cannot be contained in that first one. Las Vegas is just iconic. Hilltop Steakhouse, the sculptural and that double take to see the cactus, might not notice it right away. Overarching has such a presence. And then Moody's Diner. Icon in Waldoboro for sure, but it's great because it has a call to action as well as navigational arrows. So the call to action is eat, and it tells you where. Next. And then more of what we liked, City of Covina, we like the simplicity and the icon of the orange. Oklahoma, we like the star bursting right out of it. Fargo, it can fit many visuals, but maybe it's too retro. We weren't liking the retro so much.
Very busy. It's pretty busy.
Yeah.
It is busy, yeah.
It's too busy.
For a postcard, it makes sense.
But it did have the quality of the art within the letters.
It does,
It's sort of combined, binding the art.
yeah. And then the Waldoboro Village, Bear Rights, we liked how welcoming it was and how it was navigational. And then Visit Salt Lake, the mountains and the city are shown in a creative way. And then we love the sculptures. So who doesn't like a dinosaur? And that's kind of like a twofer, a double welcome. Regular style and dino style. And then the Arch of Antlers is a statement, and we were imagining that with clamshells. Maybe that arch, can you imagine?
Yes, I can.
But for right now, okay, so some concepts. These are rough sketches, do not take them literally, they're just a beginning. So no typefaces have been chosen, art styles haven't been chosen, but this is just an example of what could be. So the word Waldoboro, it would not be hovering, it would be on a platform of some sort, but there could be a sculptural element within each letter O, the 5-masted schooner. And I thought, because Waldoboro is so windy, why not have it be able to spin? So that could be neat. We have a clam in the second O. And then,
Get them all spinning.
what?
Get them all spinning.
Yeah, all of them
Yeah.
spinning.
Yeah, is that what the yellow line's supposed to?
That's what the yellow lines are the posts.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine it gold and shiny and pretty.
Yeah.
And then there are so many artists in Waldoboro. You know, other people claim to be the arts capital of Maine, but I think it's Waldoboro personally.
In terms of work being produced,
Yeah,
being made.
yeah, yeah. Prolific artists everywhere. everywhere you look.
I see that gateway sign that goes like that with the Waldeboro. And then there's another line that has the rings with those things spinning around in them
Can you,
underneath the,
can you
As the
draw what
next
you
one.
mean?
Huh?
Can you draw what you mean? I'm not following.
okay, well, you got, okay, so you got. Oh, there. Got that.
We gotta make sure the clam's really a clam, not an oyster.
Yeah,
That-
yeah, don't mess that would be, yes, yeah, it's definitely a clam. That would be fatal.
Oh, yeah, we could bring
Fatal
that.
error.
So
We
that's
could
kind of.
bring, when we
Oh, I
get
see what
to
you're saying.
the overarching idea.
And the bottom line, they just, there's just.
Yeah, I like
one-
that.
One metal bar and they just spin
Oh,
on their pins
That's
underneath
cool.
the water bar.
yeah. Or the other thing,
I mean, it catches, things are moving too, so that gets your eye.
It sure
I
does.
think I like that spinning idea.
and the other thing, Cindy, that you didn't specify completely is whether these are individual letters cut out with their own bases, or it's all together on one.
So it would be individual letters sitting on a base, a
Right.
platform of some sort.
Cool.
Are the spinning images
arch.
three-dimensional?
Yeah, they're sculptures.
Yeah, sculpture.
So I was thinking maybe 3D printer, that'd probably be the most cost effective way to do it.
Aluminum is not terribly expensive.
Oh, yeah, we can make some sculptures.
Yeah. And there's a lot of metal cutters.
We have a lot of artists, as it turns out.
We do have artists.
So you're thinking on a base.
Eric
where
Lee.
you'd see
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the letters.
Yeah, the letters would be dimensional. And they'd be cut out. And the base would be solid. And then we'd have the chip or whatever in the middle.
One thing to consider with this kind of dimensional sign is that it might be more effective to place the letters parallel to the highway rather than perpendicular to the highway,
Mm,
because it's a long word.
it is a long word, it is, yeah. Yeah, this would have to be
But
quite
you know,
large.
Yeah.
You do the bypass of the top of the hill coming in from the south. You have
The arch you're talking about. Yeah.
on that end. I mean, I think you gotta design a sign that's different for each of the entries. Like you said, it depends on what the situation is at each of the three entry points.
Okay,
So-
all right.
Because you wouldn't have an arch up by Moody's. You just get
No.
another Moody's sign and you have village with an arrow going down.
Right.
Eat at Moody's and visit the village.
Yeah. Be-
Yeah, so this is thinking of strictly Route 1. And it would have to be quite large, so the placement. We'd have to take that into consideration, the placement, and whether people want to get up close to it, you know?
Right.
Like if it's by that park and ride by the town forest. People could get close to it and see what's going on.
That's a
Because-
really
You go
important
right
factor.
underneath.
Hmm?
You go right underneath.
Yeah, I mean, you keep talking about the arch, and that's one idea we should keep in mind. No, you should talk about it, but let it float for a minute. Let the arch float for a minute.
Hmm.
And if it were something like this, which is not an arch, a base with individual letters, and it were near that park and ride, as you point out, you could walk to it. If you put it somewhere else on the side of the highway, you wouldn't really be able to approach it.
Right,
Because you can't
That's it.
stop on the side of the highway. This would actually allow people to take pictures with it,
yeah,
which is important to think about.
Are
Yes,
we gonna
you-
try to funnel people into the historic village?
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean by funnel people? Are you
Well,
talking about the old?
You're saying you want to put the sign at the park and ride. Well, that's Route 1. That's old Route 1.
Old route, yeah.
So if you funneled people, if there was some indication that the village is that way, then, they may want to say, oh, well, let's take a look.
so
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
thinking of it two ways. One is welcoming
Yeah,
for everyone,
100%.
and then a secondary smaller sign that's navigational, that directs you to different things in the village. We have arts, we have restaurants, we have
It's sort of
a park to come.
updating or consolidating what the Waldeboro Business Association did with that placard with all the little blue
Mm,
wayfinders.
Yeah.
Talking about.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then have symmetry between the two, right?
yeah, they definitely have to go together
Right.
and whatever style we choose would carry through.
It's nice that the O in the middle of Waldeboro is the symmetrical center point.
I see two signs like that. Coming in from the north and coming in from the south. And from the south before the bypass, and then having another bridge one that's at the bypass, the same design as the block that shows that. Or
Cool.
one approaching from the north, so you have the same theme.
And there's no reason why we couldn't have different sculptures north and south.
Totally.
So that's like
yeah.
opens
Oh,
up the
yeah.
possibilities to say what we're all about.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just, yeah.
And so these are suggestions of what it could be. Definitely open to.
Yeah.
I think that's
discussion.
perfect, actually.
Cool. So you have at least 6.
We could have a slice of pie near the Moody's.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Yeah, right.
Actually,
In your,
very good on to that.
when you imagined this, how big is this sign in your, what are you envisioning?
Like, I imagine the sculptures to be like,
What is that, 2 feet by 2 feet?
sure.
Okay, so
So-
let's imagine that, if that's 2 feet.
Yeah.
So that you'd have 6 feet with space. What would you need between them, like another 1.5 feet?
Well, if the whole height of the letters is, let's say the height of the letters is 3 feet.
It's a mammoth sign.
It is, yeah.
That's like
3,
Hollywood.
6.
Yeah.
9.
Yeah,
12,
we need a
15.
hillside.
So this is a 20-foot wide sign.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like 3 by 20.
He's
That's what
serious.
we're talking about. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
So what is the dimensions of the signs that we have up there now that are the ones that we're gonna replace?
That's a good research project. I should go out and measure it.
Sorry, but he-
I would think counting the brick planters underneath it, you're talking about something like 8 feet high by like
It does seem little.
10, something like that. Because there's the brick planter and then there's the sign. Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem small
One
though.
of those TV screens.
Yeah.
I don't think it's 10 feet wide. It might be, but it sounds, I bet it's less than that.
Maybe it's less than that.
Yeah.
If you go to the first page, we can probably count the bricks, maybe if it's
Yeah,
clear enough.
and get a measure.
Oh
of it.
gosh, we can't, it's so tiny.
Count the bricks.
It's so low res too, though, it's just,
It might be like 8 by 8 if you're counting
Yeah,
the
yeah,
profile of
yeah,
the
maybe.
bricks.
Zoom in and enhance.
I know, right?
Let's see, well, that's one brick. I think
Count the
that's
bricks.
another. So that's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, 9 or 10. That's
10
being
bricks
very
and they're
generous.
probably
Well,
8
it would be
inches,
10, it'd be
something
a
like
huge
that.
number that
Yeah.
paste it out.
80 inches. That's 7 feet maybe for the sign.
So maybe it is 9 by 9,
Yeah,
10 by
something
10,
like that.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Trying to guess how.
That's
And we all agree it's too small.
And we all agree that it's too small. So
Yeah.
actually a 3 foot, okay, call it 4 foot by 20 feet. That's
Yeah.
not, it seems a little bit large when you talk about it in the abstract. When you talk about it on the side of the highway, that's
But
not
it's
very
gonna be
large.
more than 4, like think the.
Plus the base, you mean?
These guys are 2 feet by 2, they're 2 foot around, right?
Yeah,
So it's gonna be 2 foot in height too. And it's gotta be high enough that
Well-
you could see it.
yeah.
And then the
Have-
letters have to be probably significant. I mean, it's gonna be a big sign.
Yes.
Has anybody checked with,
15, maybe, something like that.
Hold on, Jen had a thing.
has anybody checked with DOT to see what their criteria might be?
My understanding from
charm
Julie is
salt.
that the town can kind of do whatever they want within the easement.
And how big's the easement?
Well, to the woods, the area where they're clearing around the
Yeah.
highway.
You might want to just double check, because when they expanded the highway itself, they bid into the easement, so you might want to just double check.
I mean, in any case, we don't want to go too close to the woods because then you run into the problem that we currently have, which is that the woods are overtaking the sign.
Not only that, there's the water aspect of it and the potential damage from trees and all that other crap.
Which is why I'm saying if we're going with a sign that's dimensional like this and it's gonna be so wide, I would picture this more easily parallel to the highway. Because you don't want it to be disappearing into the woods for dealing with that issue.
I could also see those seagull lights with the lampshades. Like 3 of them
And we gotta deal with
lined
electricity.
up on the sculpting.
Solar?
Could do. Yeah. So can we look, so we have 3 options to talk about. today.
Yes, we do. You want to move on?
Yeah, let's move on. Okay, next. No.
Okay, that looks funny.
Do we have a water tower?
Sorry?
Do we have a water tower that you can see?
Oh,
You can paint.
not that you can see.
No.
Oh, there's why it's above the food picture, right?
Yeah.
All right, so wait, before we get too dismissive, talk about the concept of it.
I like it.
So it's a clam holding the word Waldeboro.
And the first O could be the pearl or the ship.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, you can do it in there too.
Sculptures.
Okay, so my question
This would be
is,
sculptural, so it would be a clam sculpture with
So
so the
it's
average.
smiling Waldeboro.
It's smiling.
they're having a little,
It kind of is.
Okay, so the average person driving down Route 1, seeing that, are they gonna know that's a clam?
It's that double take effect like the hillside cactus, hilltop.
Yeah, they may not know it's a clam.
Yeah, they might not, but it's definitely gonna make you look twice.
They're gonna ask somebody, like people, if they don't know what it is, I'd
I
have
know.
to find out if it were me. I'd have to know.
What?
What is it? Yeah, you'd be curious. The double take effect.
So this would be 3D, the whole plan,
Sure would.
and so where would the Waldeboro wording be at the front of the plan? Is
Yeah,
that
at the
right?
front, it's like braces.
Yeah.
It's mechanical, it opens up and it says.
I
"Wel-
love where you
welcome."
guys take this.
And then it closes.
Merry Christmas. Happy
You could
New
change
Year.
it. Oh my God, you could change it.
Plan on it.
And the town has a maintenance line item for the signs.
Can you repeat that for?
It's say, clam on in.
I think the execution of this would be super duper important. What is the material?
Yeah.
What, the color, the texture, the typeface. This could be really kitschy or it could be extremely beautiful and sophisticated. I could see
Yeah,
this going and
I had a hard time finding, believe it or not, images of clams at this point of view with the seam mount.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like straight on. I found a lot of clams. Even I looked at vintage plates, books. And it was always the back hinge. So I originally wanted it to be more of a look of an engraver's style
Mhm.
for the drawing to depict this. So I would like that sculptural element to look antiqued, to have that engraver's style. Do you guys know that art style, pen and ink sort of look?
Yeah, what's a quick reference that we could pull up?
Just write engraver's style. Or you can look up Bruce Hutchinson's artwork. He's a Maine artist. It's beautiful stuff.
We could definitely take a photo of a clam right out of our river.
We sure
For
can.
the
You're
end.
talking about like,
No, engraver's style artwork. There's nothing coming up.
is it any other specific references you can think of? Because I can see, I know Bob's concern with the clam was that it could just be reduced to kitsch.
No, I don't want catch though,
Yeah.
because that's what's expected, like. You describe it, you say a clam is holding the word Waldeboro, you immediately like. Think pretty silly stuff.
It has a resemblance, it could have a resemblance to a cheeseburger. But it could also,
Take you together.
The
Right.
lip of the lip of the clam is just a little more defining on the top and the bottom.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
this is
a
just-
concept.
I understand.
Yeah.
Just
I
the
understand.
very beginning. I'm trying to find.
In fact, you know, if you really, e- 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 exaggerate the lines, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
the
right,
lines
right,
of
right.
the shell, the kind of ribs of the
Yeah,
mouth,
from a distance.
it could be quite interesting, actually.
To me, it's the color that bugs me. I want it to be more gray.
Yeah, yeah, I do
The
too.
white
I want it to be more gray and have more like of the ridges.
kind of
It's
like-
more like the clams you find
Almost.
in
Oh,
sand,
please.
Yeah,
like down on the island, so.
That's what I
Right.
get for engravers.
even just very pale and white would work pretty well.
I'm trying to, I had some images.
And then in terms of construction, this would be a more traditional sign on a post. Could be extremely high, but it doesn't, it would probably, in all likelihood, just be, what, 8 feet above the ground or something.
So, like that.
Like, wood engraving.
Oh, good job. Yeah, look, we're on the same thing.
Yeah,
Now that I can picture though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
If
so
it's-
Matt,
if it's, do our clams look like that?
yeah, soft shell clams.
No,
they're a
No
little
way,
bit-
right?
no, that's down in the Long
Oh,
Island
I'm
Sound.
sorry, I forgot that the tank of clams was just cleaned out this whole
Oh, you don't-
afternoon.
so
I'm
you don't have
sorry,
any-
we got rid of them all.
Damn.
I thought it was more important to show the point of view I wanted to see, because it was really hard to find.
Yeah, I know
That's-
exactly what you're saying, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
A little bit more.
We can always consult Abden if we want to take it further. We have a clam expert on call.
Dimension to it.
Yeah.
yeah, so those clams are beautiful.
Like, look at the one that's on its edge like that near the bottom left.
Here?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So that's got some real nice kind of geometry to it.
I mean, if you imagine it blown up, it starts to suggest other things like
Flying saucers.
flying saucer
Yeah.
has a,
That's.
It's
about-
very
how about
trendy
a
right now.
steam-
The flying- that's why-
yeah.
Flying saucers.
Right. Flying saucer, hamburger, and construction of it is well.
We'll need to have like some good clam lore to start spreading around too. Like, we need some clamming stories
Totally.
that town folks can share.
So one of the things,
Yeah,
so
tell you a story.
years and years ago, when we were trying to,
Down River on December 26th, 2012, their head gasket had blown. And they had so many leaky rivets in their boat, they'd been leaving out of the islands. They were sinking. It was 4 in the afternoon. It was almost dark. And I was out in our, from the marina island down in Bremen. I was out on a little whaler, out of my place. And ended up towing them down to the landing on the Dutch Neck. They would have been dead.
See, clam
Clam
lore,
lore.
They would have been dead.
instant.
You had,
So
And
that-
and I didn't know if they gave me their
Uh,
high clams, but I didn't want to take it from them, but then again, you know, it was,
They paid you in clams.
yeah, I mean, it would have been not right to take it. They were poor.
Hayden Clams, isn't that the Flintstones or something? Anyway, so when we were
50
talking
clams.
about, Waldoboro being the hub and all that kind of stuff, when we were doing that little brochure, we really wanted to focus on clamming, and one of the challenges is, except for the fact that clammers go up and down the river getting clams, there's really nothing about clams in Waldoboro. Like, you can't order.
Isn't it the clam capital though?
it's one of the,
What does that mean?
The lower Medallic is closed because PCBs,
Mm.
the tailings on the solar.
So,
Out further, yeah,
so we dig up a lot of clams. And then they go to a wholesaler and they ship out.
Well, it's like Damascotta and oysters though.
except
Well,
that
except
they
in-
built an economy around it.
Right, in Damascotta, you
In
go
town.
to King Iders and get a beautiful
True,
local,
true.
local oyster.
Truck station
Amazing.
and,
Yeah,
Right,
and
exactly.
we don't have, so if people see that, they go, oh, I'd love to get some clams.
so the clams at
no
Delano's
pla-
aren't Waldeboro clams?
That would be an exception to what you're saying.
Okay.
So you could buy clams, you could buy raw clams and cook them. What I'm saying is, there, you can't go to a restaurant or find, there isn't a clam shack. There isn't, we
Well,
actually thought
Del-
about that.
Delano's has the little lunch spot.
Oh, they do now. That's true. That's
Good.
true.
You should eat there.
We do. Oh, we have eaten there. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. It's a good point. Okay.
But it could,
The
I think
challenge
what you're
is,
what are we actually directing people to? You're saying this is very specific.
it's
and
very
that-
specific and limited and.
It is.
It almost
Right.
has the same problem of Home of the Five-Masted Schooner when visitors come and they go to the brewery and they say,
Where's-
where's
yeah.
the ship? What am I,
Yeah,
what are you talking
where are my
about?
clams?
We're-
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's limited, so that is the advantage of the first sign, is that it directs you to more than one thing.
Yeah.
So you kind of cover a broader,
Yeah.
the
The upside of being super specific is that it has the spark of originality and the double take effect.
I agree
It
with that.
does, and people will stop and take a picture of it and share it on social media if it's interesting and fun.
Same question, in your mind, 20 feet across?
Not as big now,
10 to 15.
like the size of this table. Is that 20 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, only 20. Just stretch your arms, so that's. Whatever. it
Okay.
is.
15 feet wide max.
Yeah.
All right, and then
The next one?
I've changed my mind a little bit on that, but it's really interesting.
Well, and we already have a big clam somewhere, right?
clam hog.
Clam hog or quahog?
It was a clam hog. Can somebody define clam hog?
Clam hod is the basket.
Hod, the hod. That's the big huge
Oh.
one.
Hod,
Yeah.
The basket.
it's the basket that they put their clams in.
That was that was somebody found one in this life size, a giant clam hog.
Cool.
Who was talking about this last meeting?
There was, so way back, a bunch of the clammers and maybe firemen, I'm not sure, got together. They built a big clam hod to use in a parade. And we borrowed it for a few years, and the WBA it was in the front yard of the town office, and we, for a little while, were able to get businesses to put items in there representative of their businesses, kind of sponsor the clam hod idea. But that it just didn't take, and people got tired of dealing with it. And I'm not sure where it ended up, but it was removed from the front.
They sailed it down the river.
Yeah. Do you, none of us has seen this except for Sonia. Do you think that it's an attractive element that could be used in a sign?
In the sign,
In a sign in some way?
I don't think people would identify with that unless they're from the coast.
No.
Yeah. It's another one of those.
Yeah, it's in fact, somebody made small clam hods and gave them out to businesses along the village streets there. And they put all kinds of plants in them and made it pretty. That lasted a few years.
Uh-huh.
I have a pretty one at home.
Okay, all right, so let's talk about the third option.
Third option is still a drawing. Sorry. So I'm picturing a board with the words painted on the board and the O's are cut out. So the center of the O is cut out. And behind the O is an image. So it would be kind of like a shadow box effect. So we'd need to light it inside. And as you drive by or walk by, you'd see sort of the scene change. So depending on the point of view, oh, you're making a mock-up. I love it.
Right.
So north and south. So imagine each O is it could be part of a larger scene. It could be individual vignettes. You could have the five-masted schooner in the distance and clammers in the foreground for one of them. And if you go to the next page, or like the other, like north could be agriculture. This is one example of style of artwork. This is a little a lot too whimsical and too AI looking. These are actually
Yeah.
wooden dimensional puzzles. But I like the idea of them and how they show depth, and I like that you could, like the top two tell a story and they show a landscape, and the bottom two show a more iconic thing in an interesting way. And then if you scroll down, this is another art style that's completely different. But if we want to do more of an abstract vignette across the whole thing, this art style I thought was really pretty for that idea.
So it's almost like, okay, I'm trying to picture. If you're driving by, you're seeing the O's pass over this in the background.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that abstract.
Yeah.
Because you have to sort of understand, like the landscape and the water could be abstract like that, but then you'd have, if you had a silhouette of a clamor or the ship, that would be more clear.
Yeah. This size would have to be quite large for it to register. And the vignette that's behind it, would it be one thing on the south side and one thing on the north side?
It would either be one thing on the south and one on the north. Like if it's an agricultural scene that goes to the river on the north side, and then the south side could be like more of a riverscape.
Or like you just suggested, human figures, clamors and
Yep.
workers.
Or it could be individual vignettes in the O's, similar to the first idea, but not sculptural.
Yeah.
More like a held image, kind of like that Fargo example, that postcard that we equally like and dislike because it's too busy. This would be a way to capture multiple images to tell different stories without being too busy. So the O's are frames, basically.
Certainly behooves us then to have a typeface that allows you for a large,
Big O.
yeah,
Yeah.
thin script, something that
Well,
gives you a big
the
O.
first one, that's why I chose that typeface, is because it was a thin script with a really round O, because
Right.
some of them are pretty condensed. The other thing is, if you look at that T box, we could even do Waldeboro, like welcome to, where it says resheet artwork, and then Waldeboro at the bottom. And we could have, one scene north and one scene south. Like, imagine if you had that top one and then the center middle one, except with a Waldeboro bent to it. And you could make it dimensional where it could be cut pieces, because Waldeboro also is known for rug hooking, and the Waldeboro style of rug hooking is dimensional. So we could have a nod to that.
That's actually really beautiful.
Yeah, so it could be like different heights. So that imagine each of those shapes in the artwork is a cut piece of wood. And they could be different heights, and they could be a little beveled.
So they're stacked in front of each other. They're making.
Yeah.
I'm not visualizing what you're saying.
It'd be cool to we could actually make a mock-up of this. So like imagine one, I think what I'm understanding what you said is like one plane, it might say welcome to, and then there's like a background
Artwork.
thing. Yeah. Then there's like another piece of, this is like another piece of wood that's making a mountain. This is another piece of wood that's making a mountain. And then on top of that is Waldeboro, and these are the O's that are cut out.
Right.
So as you're driving by, the O's reveal those layers that are underneath the painted wood that makes those, mountain forms. So it would be, it all.
And it would be more, the background would be more abstract than trying to actually, like your example.
In that version of it, but it could be figures, it could be human figures too.
Yeah, so if you look at the bottom, can you enlarge the bottom ones?
So I'm trying to think of driving by a sign. So you're driving by a sign. Oh, Waldeboro. Like, it's not
A
like
little
you
more.
have a minute to imagine looking through different O's and. I mean, am I wrong on this?
It'd be something that would look a little different every time you drove by it.
Mhm.
This is a little bit hard to visualize, and it would actually take a bit of work to
It would.
to do mock-ups of this so that we understand if it works or not. But in the best version of this, every time you drive by, you would see a little bit different, the artwork peeking out from the O's behind it.
So would that be effective, or would that be somebody driving by and going, I have no idea what they're trying to say? In other words, like, that's a wonderful idea. You drive by 20 times and every time you drive by, you see a different
Yeah.
little piece of the image.
Mhm.
This
But
is,
what if you drive by once?
this is in my hometown, Homer, Alaska, and this is amazing mural that's in the main street of town. And it's because Homer's always been an artsy town. It's all these are people who lived in the town, are artists and of different kinds. So imagine this is here, and then there's a sign that's in front of it that's sort of so you every time you drive by, you're seeing different figures like poke out through the O's,
Right.
Yeah, because you're
Um,
moving. So I mean, we can fake it.
kind of like that, like it's as you're going by.
It's tricky,
Yeah, it's tricky, and it's
but
And it
also,
would have to be. It'd have to be so you could get the entire image. Or the images aren't, it's a fixed image behind it, right?
it is.
Okay, so,
It's your point of view that changes what you see.
right, your angle.
So you're moving.
I could help you if you did a couple of mock-ups. I could put it into like SketchUp and make a little video.
Cool. Okay.
So we could like model it.
Yeah.
To give a better idea of how this would work.
I can cut out the word Waldeboro
Okay.
and put art behind it. And we'll get like a little tiny matchbox car. And look,
Yeah,
but also a different idea that occurred to me while we were talking about this is imagine that box pretty much as is. Imagine the middle one, you're good. Yep. And where it says Rishi, it says welcome to, and there's artwork, and then it says Waldeboro underneath.
Mhm.
And we could also do, for all the shapes that you see in that artwork, those could be pieces of wood at different heights, different bevels that fit in to the artwork. And, that artwork is showing landscape, trees, and water very effectively, but also abstract, so you can kind of interpret it a little bit yourself. We have so much to offer and so many stories to tell that being a little abstract might be helpful.
also that allows you then to play with shapes that are suggestive of sails.
Yeah.
Boats, clams, river.
Yeah, exactly.
forms.
Without being really specific.
And you could still do like the same color scheme, but maybe a different image.
Yeah.
From different directions.
Yep,
Right.
I think that'd be cool.
Um,
That's the least tricky of them. It's still a little tricky.
that option 4.
Yeah,
we're talking
option
about
for,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like that it's a nod to the Waldeboro style of rug hooking, which,
I think it's really sophisticated and not obvious at all, and actually kind of a bigger deal than most people think.
oh yeah,
People don't immediately associate Waldeboro hooked rugs when they think of this town, but it's an important contribution to
I mean,
history.
is it Angela Adams and her rugs, and they're all dimensional and cool and amazing. That's directly inspired and influenced by the rug hookers of this town.
And your vision is a single image? for that?
Yeah,
And whatever the image is, it could be a three-dimensional shot of the Madonic or something like that.
mm-hmm. It'd be a little abstract, so we might.
It would be
show-
abstract, but it would
agriculture.
represent.
So option 1 is the kind of like airport sign. That's what I'm picturing in my brain a little bit, or I associated the letters
Yep,
on a base. Option 2
with the
is
sculptures in the middle, the
Oh,
world
yeah.
gigs.
Yeah, the sculpture whirligig version, option.
Mhm.
Option 2 is a clam.
Mm.
Option 3 is cutout O's. And option 4 is hooked rug sign.
Mhm.
What do we do next?
Well, we narrowed down to the ones, maybe two.
Is there
That you
anything
want
on
to
the last-
see.
Is there any, sorry, is there anything on the last two slides?
Yes, there are.
Do I flip to them or?
Sure. So this is just a reminder of Baltimore campaign, just, you know, I know that merch is important and thinking about this and, you know, all of them are conducive to merch. The first one, you could create charms, you could create tote bags with, you know, just the
Mhm.
schooner or a clam or whatever.
Cool.
Keychains, merch stuff. So that's just a reminder of how cool Baltimore is, basically,
Yeah.
and to keep it in mind. Okay, next. And then this is typography. So it just type I like, and if there's any type that resonates with you, you love, you hate, let me know.
I love the French one.
The top one in red.
Tabac.
Mm.
And the Andretti. That's nice too.
So
Cool.
that's just my collection of interesting typography.
So anybody want to speak up about their favorite option or what really seems doable and iconic and
I think it's all in, and I think they all could be great, and I think it's all in execution. You could either make them corny as heck, or they could be just phenomenal, I think. And it's all about, are we in a place where we could take a really forward-thinking idea like this and make it not be pitchy or make it not be,
absolutely.
could it be really phenomenal? That would be my biggest question. The more complex, are we getting into an area that maybe isn't gonna work out the way we think it'll work out? Isn't gonna be what we think it is when it's done. Cause you know, taking a model like
But
this
we have to
size
get the right
and turn it
people.
into a 20-foot sign.
Yeah. It's not,
It's tricky.
you know, I would say a lot of it is design does heavy lifting. It doesn't necessarily mean complex doesn't necessarily mean expensive in execution. If you have everything in place, and you know
Mhm.
exactly what you're doing and you know exactly what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Right.
It's not that expensive to cut out 3 holes in a sign.
Right.
You know, it's just about having your ducks in a row in the design process. So that's what we're doing right now is working on making sure we've got first principles so that it can be executed right.
Mhm.
Is it
You know, just, you know, the position of the driver, the position of the, on something like this, what are they actually gonna see? Are they seeing all of it, or are they seeing a little bit of, is the separation too much? So the physics of the thing has to be exactly right to have the impact that we want it to have.
Yeah.
And so that would be my biggest concern, is that we don't nail it.
Mm.
This would be fun to do if we went in that direction. I think what we're talking about is this is obviously the most complex one that would
Mm.
need to be modeled. And there might be a couple stages. It might be build
Yeah.
a simple model and put it up in the middle of nowhere on the side of a highway and drive by it and see.
And
You
see,
can
yeah.
test it out. It doesn't cost
Yeah.
$50 to get some pieces of wood and just, you know, throw it together.
Well, and we can print a big poster
Yeah,
Yep.
or even sheets and tile them together.
exactly. So that can be tested at very low cost.
I mean, we'd have to test it. I'd be scared.
So much.
So were the comments that myself and Ruben left in response to all this online, was any of that helpful? Did you?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes, I used that in creating the, what you saw tonight.
So
Were there any that, weren't addressed? I don't remember.
I don't know, I know myself, I was focused mostly on the third option, it seemed interesting. And
Yeah, and I know that you brought up the typeface, and you're absolutely right that the typeface will have to be well chosen. And the O's have to be big enough to act as frames.
yeah,
And the drawing that you saw of the clam totally looked like a Burger Shack the way I drew it. So
Yeah.
that was good feedback. So that's why I got a real clam for the mock-up.
Just another really quick thought. If these are on the one that we're looking at now with the three,
I've had number one pulled up.
number one. So
Yeah.
just a really quick question. Is there a risk if these are three-dimensional examples in the O's, right? They're beautiful three-dimensional sculptures. Is there a risk somebody's gonna steal those?
I mean, it would be hard to steal them.
Would it?
I imagine so.
I mean, maybe if it's a more metal figure and it's hard to, and if they're heavier to move out, but yeah, but then they lose the wind effect. But I do
Oh,
think,
true.
but damage is something I think would be considered unless it's like in a highly public area. No,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you can design a sign against theft.
Gosh, I want a sign that's so cool that people want to steal it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. We should make two of each of them, just in case.
Back up.
I love the idea.
Switch them out seasonally.
That's a great idea.
I think maybe at this point, I'm most drawn to number one. I love the idea of the sculptural element. of it.
But we could,
I'm looking at this and it's unfair because number three was just a sketchy sketch and I think if we had it like beautifully.
I
well,
can beautifully,
It might have the
do
same,
it.
might
Yeah.
have the same impact, but I kind of agree. I like this.
The concern here is making sure that it's, to your point, well engineered. It's
Oh.
just, you gotta get, I mean, if these are made out of, I don't know, aluminum or steel. Making sure that the bearings for that, for the turning element are really well built so that it's a low maintenance thing and it's gonna withstand.
point out those
weather.
phrase people.
yeah, Ruben had two interesting ideas. One was suggesting a business that does metal printing, then one. What was this? A coin op that sprays people? Ruben, you're gonna have to explain that one to me.
Like half my idea is like you have a good one and then one that's a little bit sarcastic. And when I saw the clam, it reminded me of when I would go to Funtown and play with the log flume and there was this place where you could put quarters in and it would spray people. And were I given the opportunity, I would absolutely spray someone in the face from that clam.
That's great.
You know, it could collect water, rainwater, and then
Yeah.
spray it out.
Shoot it
Oh,
out.
there you go.
Little battery operated pump. Easy.
Yeah, yeah, you did it, do it.
But you know, those sculptures in the middle, they could kind of be modular and we could change them every once in a while if we
We could
wanted
do a
to.
Christmas,
Yeah,
Halloween. I think that's a really interesting.
Could put a Santa hat on the clam.
you could. Or you could, yeah.
So this will take a bit more research than the other options in terms of fabrication. Making sure that the bearing element for the turning thing as well. is
Yeah, there is-
sourced and
There's a place in Kennebunk or Kennebunkport that's, I don't know if you've ever been, they sell like 1 million whirligigs. So I was thinking if we like this idea and we want it to spin, contacting them.
great. Yeah, it's just an element of research.
Yeah, I would, yeah, I definitely leave it to the experts for.
In terms of actual expense, at this point, it's really hard to say what would be the most expensive and what would be the cheapest sign. Maybe your option 4, the hooked rug, would be the most cost effective. But maybe not. It depends on who
Maybe
you
not.
get to do the wood carving for that.
Yeah.
So that maybe that should not be a consideration at this point. So we have to go down to 2.
Well, like which one, I feel like the clam one is fine for now as is. It doesn't necessarily need a ton of refinement, right?
Yeah.
like, if we decide we like that one, I'd want to do further fawn explorations. I'd want to get photos of, a model, the most beautiful clam we have
Yeah, yeah.
for clam shells and photograph it really nicely. But I think for now, people get it.
Right, right.
So I would not refine that further. As far as the cutouts of the O's, that's not fleshed out. It's still my very loose sketch.
Can you go back to the clam just for a second? Sure. If that's gonna be three-dimensional, right? Is
Sure
your-
is.
What if the Waldeboro was set in to the clam a little bit?
It is a little bit
And then lit,
like teeth.
and then like lit? Like, I think that could look really,
Little backlighting behind it.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Backlit.
yeah,
No.
it could look like really.
Inside the clam, yeah.
Yeah, like not all the way, obviously not all, but like inside and out,
Tucked in a little
tucked
bit.
in a little bit, yeah.
That's a nice idea.
I mean, it's a charming clam,
It is.
It's growing on.
this charming clam.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the positives are similar to the negatives. It's singular, it's very specific, and a lot of people are gonna be like, what about? Because it's not representing all people in every part of the history. It's very specific. But that's the
Those are the
upside.
things that are most effective, though.
Ask yourself this, which of these signs would somebody stop and turn around and take a picture with?
Hmm. Maybe this one.
This has gotta be it, right? I mean, you'd see that, you'd go, oh man, we gotta get a picture of that.
Possibly this one too. I mean, this is.
Maybe that one, like in between them or something.
Maybe-
Two kids in
maybe we
between
should
those.
go on Water tower.
Be kind
Yeah.
of cool.
That'd be so perfect, that painted
Yeah.
optical illusion, clam out as a water tower.
It's like turning your propane tank into a yellow submarine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I could see this one, I could see Ruben's. Coin operated mist spray thing with this one,
Yeah.
but probably like at Pine Street Landing or Sylvania, when that eventually becomes the park. Where this is the thing that collects the rainwater and just shoots it at the kids.
It's actually a cool idea.
That's a really good idea.
So I do see this happening in the future, but I agree. I have been quiet, but I'd say the first one probably the good one, especially if it's easy to change out and get different art items for the O's.
Mhm.
That's my 2 cents.
Could have fun with it.
Yeah, there's a lot more variety that can happen with that.
That said, I mean, this is such a striking idea. I would love to spend a little bit more
Yeah,
time
yeah.
kind of
I
modeling
agree with that
this.
too, yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and then I'm just really, I'm really into the citing the hooked rugs in some way. So
Well, the artwork could look like a hooked rug.
that's true,
I mean, it might be too much.
right?
So, but that is another kind of one of those, I mean, Waldeboro rugs famous, but not everybody would get that. So that would be,
Yeah, it's
That would
kind
be
of like
kind of
an
one of those-
inside.
yeah.
Yeah, but here would be my response to that. It's not about everybody getting it, but it is so specific and it's so honest and it's so authentic that emerges, that will come out.
Well, and if it piques curiosity,
Okay, so, but that's another one of those, okay, so, yeah, so now what? So now I know that Waldeboro is famous for Waldeboro rugs. Okay. Where do I go?
Well-
Where am I spending money? Where am I going? Where am I gonna?
I
you're
guess-
being welcomed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I mean is like, when you lean into specificity, that's when like really beautiful striking things emerge. And that's all I'm saying. I'm saying
Yeah.
it might lead to a really specific, very singular visual design.
Since we're only
That's why I like
only
that.
doing half,
So are you talking about?
Right, it's only
just
half.
putting
so
something
we're down,
that's-
so our utilization is 25 to 14%.
The levels, yeah.
That's gonna grow, so
Right.
that tells me we have a ways to go to meet our emissions.
Yeah.
But I need you to look at that and see if it makes any sense to you.
No, I understand.
Farmers.
Sort of check it.
Mhm.
In.
Yep.
For.
Yeah.
So there are ways of combining all.
Absolutely, yeah. Is that a good place to leave it?
Good work.
Yeah, nice. love it.
Awesome.
And then, Alec, when we get further down the road, we will talk about gateways and other options, you know, placement. I think we need to just kind of figure out. We need to narrow this down a little bit, and then we can start talking about what you're bringing up, which is it, do we place it as a arch over top of the turn off to old Route 1? Where are the signs? How many, etc. I mean, we're definitely doing 2, but all right. Thank you, everybody. Anything else we need to go over?
We didn't do Ruben's thing or the food pantry.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about a couple things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you do the food pantry stuff now? And because I want to give the floor to Ruben.
Let me just check real quick if I got an update today. Oh, my goodness. Wow.
All right.
Yeah, I could do an update. We're ready?
Yes,
Okay, hang on.
Alec. We're gonna talk about food pantry.
Thanks.
Well, it looks like we had a record-breaking day today
Again.
at the food pantry. So this is mind-boggling, honestly. Total households, 201.
Wow.
201.
Holy shit.
I can't
Our,
believe it.
our up and our last largest was
190.
And that's
176.
without healthy kids.
What's that?
That's without healthy Lincoln
Oh.
County.
No, actually, I'm not sure I can answer that. Let me see if I can answer that.
Boy, that's off the charts.
Yeah, I think that is correct. I don't believe their numbers are included. All right, 201 households, 542 people. Distribution, children, 180, adults, 279, and seniors, 83. Wow.
That's the only one that's less than last one.
Hmm.
All the others are higher.
Yeah, so that's a new record for the Waldeboro Food Pantry, which is awful and good that we can do it, and awful that it's a new record.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you.
it's the second record, right? I mean, we had another one just the other, I mean.
This whole year has been
Yeah.
record setting. It's kind of like, if you plotted it. And this year is an increase over last year.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah.
There's your plot.
Yeah.
Actually, this is where it started to really turn up, and then this will be up here.
Do you
So
actually,
maybe-
just some quick question, do you think this is strictly a measure of need, or is it a combination of need plus the renown of the food pantry, the availability and so on?
So we're working on this right now, actually, which is, what's our actual penetration of the needs? And we actually believe we're not hitting nearly enough families and folks in need in Waldeboro. And the challenge becomes, what's the actual poverty line in Waldeboro? And depending on who you look at, it varies anywhere from 7% to 20%. So the numbers are, it's hard to actually know, but I think the higher numbers are more reasonable in terms of the poverty line. The other thing is, the poverty line isn't really the poverty line. It's significantly above the poverty line.
Right.
Because to actually live at poverty, you can't do it.
Yeah.
So where can you actually, live comfortably? And it's significantly above. A lot of places, it's like, they'll like double that number to get an actual poverty line. And so we think our impact into the need is probably, geez.
It's 14 to 24%.
Yeah, it's not.
Depending on what you pick.
Yeah.
And
I just gave the
You-
model we created. And to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, you'd want to see much higher uptake.
we would want to see, our challenge is we can't do it.
Yeah.
From where we are now. I mean, we're maxed out. We're virtually maxed out. And so so that's our challenge. Our challenge is finding that next facility that we can actually achieve a higher penetration of the need. Because I don't, we've read other cases where food pantries have changed, their way of distributing. Going, what we do is you basically get the food that you get. So
Yeah.
we have boxes of food and bags of food, and we just deliver them. Really what most food pantries try to do is a shopping experience where you go in and it's like a grocery store. You get the bread you want, you get the kind of milk you want, you get the meat you want, and most food pantries that have gone from the model we're in now to a grocery store type model have seen their numbers double.
Mm.
And that's what I would expect.
Okay.
So I would see, even though we're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I think that's probably 50% of what we would see with a better distribution system.
Thank you.
I want to note, because on Facebook, you'll have a lot of people assuming that the people who are going to the food pantry don't work and things like. That's not what I see.
That is,
The people who are needing it still have jobs. Some of them, both parents are working staggered shifts and they still need food pantries. So that says a lot about our economy here. But they're not people who aren't trying.
Right.
Which there's often this stigma, I think, and there really shouldn't be.
so that's, and when you go to a grocery store model, you get rid of some of that stigma.
Right.
And so that's really our goal, is to make our clients comfortable coming to our facility and doing their shopping. And so I know we're late, but just one real quick example. So and this is what the man who runs AIO told me. He said, really the model you want is you want 3 people meeting up at the town hall like we are. And the one person says, oh, I shop at Hannaford's. And the other person says, oh, I shop at Shaw's. And the third person says, oh, I shop at the Waldoboro Food Pantry. And there's no stigma. It's just where you go to get your food. And really that's the goal.
Okay. Wow. That's
So the food pantry is very helpful for the working poor, because they often don't qualify for SNAP and things like that. There's a lot of working poor now.
relieving pressure off of debts that you owe, heating costs, everything else that's.
Oh, especially now, 'cause
Medical costs or whatever.
people are getting the fuel bills now.
Yeah.
They're getting their oil bills. They can't buy groceries. Yeah.
Okay,
100%.
Ruben, you got the floor.
All right, so I will, and I'm gonna read something out. I emailed the version to Conrad. Conrad, I've tried to make it contain fewer words. So, when I'm done and we've had a conversation, I can send out what I've read back. I will try not to cough through this and at the tail end of I don't know what. This is about social media interaction and our group. So I'd like to get through this and then have any conversations you like. All right. As members of the Waldoboro Economic Development Committee, our public and private communications reflect not only on us individually, but also the committee and the town as a whole. It's essential we use our words to foster a supportive environment for businesses. I'm proposing a set of guiding principles to ensure our communications, whether on social media and public forums or during meetings, are positive, constructive, and aligned with our mission. These principles include encouragement and positivity, celebrating and supporting local businesses publicly while addressing concerns privately and constructively, not just for businesses in Waldoboro, but for our neighbors as well when those interactions come up. Awareness of representation, recognizing how our words may reflect on the EDC as well as the town of Waldoboro. And commitment to collaborations. Direct questions or concerns should be sent through proper channels. If you have a question or concern with a small business or a person, you should take it to them in person, in writing, and not in a public forum like social media, Facebook, Twitter, anything like that, where you're just commenting in a public list. By promoting professionalism and a collaborative spirit, we can strengthen the economic vitality of Waldoboro and build trust with current and future businesses. I'd love to hear anyone's thoughts.
Ruben, is that in response to something?
That
And
is, So it's multiple instances I've noticed over probably the last year, either in meetings or things I've seen on social media.
Okay, and then the other thing is that meant to be something that we as participants in town committees would do our best to behave in that manner? Is that what
So
you?
my focus admittedly has been this group, because when I'm talking with you all, this is when I think about it. And if I'm, you know, if I'm in an environment where I see someone in this group making a comment that could be perceived negatively or is negative, then I think about it again. I could see this being applied more widely. I'm sure parts of Waldeboro, maybe I'll have something in there. I'm unaware of a policy. I'm also aware we haven't directly had this conversation in
Mhm.
this forum. I'm sure we have one-to-one on different things or on the side after a meeting, but I wanted to kind of bring it into focus.
I think that's a good thing to discuss, because we are, as individuals, considered representing the committees and the groups that we work with
Mhm.
mostly. And it is important that we realize how we're perceived by the greater population, and that we also we don't have the right to speak for instance, if you're on a board or something, one person doesn't have the right to speak for the whole board. Or if somebody is representing a committee, the committee has to agree to what that person might put, unless the person said, I'm only speaking for myself.
And I will say, this isn't a reaction to anyone saying, hey, as a member of the EDC, I think that, X is terrible. It's more of seeing something that could be negative or interpreted as sort of aggressive, and then it not being hard to find that person being on this group. So it's, it can create those sort of secondary negative associations.
And Ruben, I think it's really good to think about the public face and the private face of this. I mean, the principles that you outlined, I think, are really important. And to my ear, these are guiding principles, but there's nothing legalistic about it. It's simply to say that you are both representing a public forum, a public committee, and you are a private citizen. And sometimes, you just need to make a clear separation. I would love to talk about this further at the next meeting. I don't want to hold people up anymore tonight, but it'd be good to think about it. Could you email the group with that text that you just read?
I think that.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything else tonight? All right. We are adjourned.